This one's going to be for all the Christian business owners that are watching this video. God opens doors when you do this. I'll tell you guys a story about my friend. I don't want to use his real name, obviously, so we'll call him Brian. Brian was working a job he really didn't enjoy. He was a trucker. He was driving, local trucking, and it was about 12 hours every single day, just on the road, day after day after day. He really didn't like it. He was away from his family. He has a young child at home, wanted to obviously be able to be there, spend more time with his wife. At first, the job was a blessing because he was able to make really good money from it, and it allowed him to spend more time with the Lord, deepen his relationship with God. Because he was on the road all day, he was able to just listen to sermons, listen to the audio Bible, listen to worship, and really deepen his relationship. But now, having done it for multiple years, was just wondering what's next. Feels like he's called for more. He feels like he wants to do more. He wants to not only do more for his family, but do more for the kingdom. He took what little time he had outside of work and tried his best to work on his own business. He had, maybe a few hours here, a few hours there. He was leaving in the morning at 4 a.m., getting home at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then having to obviously get sleep in and do it all over again. And I've had some encounters with this, being in situations where you feel like you shouldn't be there anymore. You feel like you're being called out of it. So I told him what worked for me. What's always worked for me in those moments was total surrender. And in his mind, he did. He was willing to leave his job. He was willing to take that extra time to start a business so that he can have even more time to dedicate to serving the Lord, to investing more into his church. In his mind, that was surrender. All he needed was that moment. All he needed was that chance so that he could build his business. And he got it. He got his chance. He got his moment. He was speaking to the doctor, and the doctor wrote him a letter. He actually diagnosed him as being overworked, and he was able to submit that letter to his work, and they gave him a month off. He took that month and tried a couple different things, trying to start an online business. But obviously, a month isn't a whole lot of time to replace your income. So eventually, that month was coming to an end, and he had to make a decision. Was he going to keep chasing the starting of this new business, or was he going to go back to work? He spent so much time in prayer, spent so much time seeking for an answer from God, seeking what should he do, what path should he take, what direction should he go in, should he go back to work, should he not go back to work? He kept praying for God to show him a way that would allow him to not have to go back to work so he could pour more into his church, pour more into his family, and pour more into others around him. And whenever we would have conversations about this, it just kept hitting me over and over again. And I was telling him, Brian, you need to surrender. Again, he thought he was. He kept saying, listen, I'm fully surrendered. I am willing to walk away from my job that's paying all the bills to serve the Lord more. But then we have to ask ourselves, is that true surrender? Even if in our mind it's us wanting to serve the Lord more, even if it's us wanting to do more for the kingdom in our eyes, is that true surrender? Just praying for the things that we want, praying for God to bless our business, even if the business will help the kingdom. Is that true surrender? So I gave him a different perspective. I told him to consider, what if God wants you to go back? What if true surrender isn't the willingness to quit, but true surrender is the willingness to go in whatever direction God wants you to go? What if the true surrender is not praying, God, show me a way out, but praying, God, let your will be done. If you want me to go back, I will go back. If you want me to stay, I will stay. Just show me whatever it is you want, let your will be done. And as soon as I said that, Brian, I could see it. He tensed up. He did not want to say that prayer. But the thing about it is, knowing God, knowing his character, knowing who he is, he wants what's best for us, and he will always do what's best for us. So we can surrender and we can trust him with our plans. And I told him, hey, is your unwillingness to surrender, is your fear around surrendering a fear that's being brought up by the fact that, hey, maybe God's not going to do what you believe to be best? Do you think that if you surrender that decision to him, he's going to make you go back? And because you have in your mind no reason to be there anymore, you think that going back is is not going to be beneficial in any way, he was unwilling to trust God with that decision. And he wrestled with it for days, I'd say even weeks on end. And it prompted me to start remembering all the times in my life where I had to surrender in that way. God, if you want me to stay, I'll stay. If you want me to go, I'll go. Let your will be done. Every single time, I've fully, truly surrendered. What came after that was something unexpected, but at the same time, better than the thing I even wanted, better than the thing that I was praying for originally. So I told him my story with it. I said, when you surrender, God might give you more than what you asked for, something that you wouldn't even see coming. So Brian sucked up all of his fear around letting go, his fear around surrendering, his fear around going back, and truly in his heart, let it go and had a true willingness to go back with peace, with joy. And all you can pray for at that moment is for God to give you strength. If he does want you to go back, he'll give you the strength to go back. But he surrendered it. He was willing to go back. He even called his boss and said, hey, I'm coming back on Monday. I'll see you Monday. This whole time, Brian didn't even know what business to start, what business he'd be good at, what business he would be able to quickly replace his income with. All the things he tried. We're allowing him to make a couple $100s here and there, but if they were going to replace his income, they were going to take months to work. They were going to take a long time to get to that point. But almost out of nowhere, the opportunity came for him to start his own chauffeur business. He had met someone a few years ago that had a chauffeur business that he reconnected with. And on top of that, he met someone else at his church who happened to do the same thing. And as soon as he surrendered, in that moment, God put on his heart to start that business. Not only that, but the friend that he knew from before that he reconnected with reached out to him and said, hey, I feel like God's calling me to show you how I do this, to draw back the curtain and give you all the secret sauce. I'm not worried about you stealing business. I'm not worried about competition. I feel like God is telling me that I need to go into business with you. And they jumped on like a 3-hour call where he laid out all of his secrets to how he was able to really scale a massive chauffeur company. Plus, he started actually giving him clients, giving him business, allowing him to get to the point where it was able to replace his income like that. The chauffeur company wasn't even something he had ever even considered, but the moment he surrendered, it came out of nowhere.